here. My next guest is an expert on the topic. Please welcome to the Van Jones Show, author, investor, and criminal justice reform activist Morgan Simon in the house. I've watched your activism progress over the years. You're one of the most effective change makers that I've ever met. But just let's start with the basics. What is wrong with private prisons? I mean, if you could get a private prison that could do a good job and save a little bit of money, what's wrong with private prisons?
Private prisons make money by locking people up, and that means that they are fundamentally a symptom of the broader problems of incarceration and immigrant detention. And America is pretty unique. You know, we lock up more people than anywhere else in the world, and we rely often on private prisons to do so. 10% of incarcerated people, over 70% of immigrants in detention. And these companies...
So 70% of the people who are in those detention centers that we see, those are private, for-profit companies locking them up?
That's correct, and those companies are making as much as $700 for every night. We might as well be putting people in the Ritz-Carlton.
Wow.
And this goes back to when you have companies that are incentivized to lock up more people, well, then you see them lobbying intensively, over $25 million over 3 decades, participating in groups like ALEC that are lobbying for harsher laws on immigration and incarceration.
Because the longer people are locked up, the more money they make.
They make more money, exactly. And that is really where it's not just about public versus private prisons, it's about the soul of the country and how we want to treat people. Are we about locking up more people and making more money in the process? Or are we about giving people second chances, about drug treatment, about mental health treatment, about restorative justice?
You've actually been able to be effective as a financial person. So what's the connection between your heart and your smarts when it comes to having real victories here?
Absolutely. So I'm an impact investor. I spend my time investing money in companies that have social and environmental value as founding partner of Candide Group. And that means I'm often looking at the money story behind the story of how is it that in every social issue, there's some big corporation or some big bank that's having an impact. And this caught the attention of the over 10 million activists as part of the Families Belong Together coalition who were seeing these images of immigrant detention and saying, wait a minute, what does my money and my role have to do with this? That it's my money in the bank that's been financing these private prisons, and I'm not okay with that. So sometimes we think, well, this is Trump's policy or this is a corporate policy. This is all of us. And the good news there is that we can do something about it.
Well, what can you do? Because I was surprised, kind of learning more about what you've been doing. People, you got money in your 401k, you got money in your pensions. People don't know their money is going to companies that are locking people up for profit. What have you been able to concretely do about that, and what should we be thinking about that?
Sure. So we have gotten 100% of the known banks that are providing credit and term loans to Geo Group, and over 60% of that to Core Civic. So those are the 2 largest private prison companies pulled out. And that means that those companies are going to be struggling when it's time to raise more money to lock up more people.
So how did you get, so you're saying the big banks basically cut up the credit cards for these private prison companies. How did you get them to do that?
Essentially, we use the power that we all have as economic citizens. That I know we think often about voting as something that we do every 4 years, but we really vote every day with every dollar that we spend or we invest. And we came together saying, it doesn't matter if you have $100 in the bank or $100 million, you have a vote. And you get to tell those banks, this is still my money, and I want to make sure that it's reflecting my values. And that's exactly what we did and what we're going to continue to do.
So you basically, you got people to put pressure on the banks. Well, I can't tell you, I'm just proud to know you. So many people say they want to make a change in the world. You wrote the book Real Impact, which had a real impact, and now you've been able to follow up. Give her a round of applause for making something positive happen. Now listen, I want to thank all my guests. Thanks for watching. I'm Van Jones, The Van Jones Show. Peace and love for one another.